Tourism provides better opportunities for women's participation in the workforce, women's entrepreneurship, and women's leadership than other sectors of the economy. But barriers remain. Lower representation, archaic societal mindsets, gap in leadership positions, unequal access to education and training opportunities, gender-based discrimination. These are just a few of the many challenges that women in Nepal face personally and professionally. To understand how we can make the tourism sector an empowering sector for women, we must first understand where the gender gap exists.
In my experience, gender gap occurs in tourism-related corporate companies such as five-star hotels, big travel companies, entrepreneurship and ownership is mostly men. And I think that is because of the lack of funds. Women do not own they do not possess their own funds. You see, property is under the control of men. So that is why men have easier access to big businesses. For example, a five-star hotel. A man can start it because he owns most of the property of the family. The property rights still there's a gender gap in the ownership of property. So I think that's one reason. Ownership of corporate tourism businesses like five-star hotels and big travel tour companies.
Global report on women in tourism, and that itself says that women make up for about 54% of the workforce in the tourism sector. This is like the global perspective is saying, which is 54, but what they earn is 10-15% less than men, right? So this is like the global where this is the scenario. So in South Asia, you can imagine if this is the global perspective where just South Asia we are like totally lagging behind. The gap is widened. You might see women in, let's say, in the hotel industry, in the front offices, in the travel trade, where it's like stuff like ticketing at the airport. And when you come down, suddenly you might not find so many. When you go into, say, you look at the guides, you look at the tour leaders, you look into like adventure trade, so to say, where it goes like more deeper and hardcore into travel. So slowly you start seeing that there's a decrease, and a lot of women are employed, and unfortunately, like in South Asia, they go unpaid. It's unaccounted for.
What are the challenges when it comes to closing this gender gap?
I mean, now we know women are coming into this. There are guides, there are women up front, and although in South Asia, the problem is we might not have women at the decision making levels. They might be at the clerical level where there is the representation, but not at the decision making level. So it all comes down from the stereotype of how the tourism sector has been treated in this region. And for women, it becomes even more difficult because for a simple reason, the certain nature of work in this trade, right? You have long working hours. You could be traveling at ends. I mean, for days, it could be a 10-day trip. It could be a 12-day trip. You would be with strangers, so to say. One of the biggest challenges is the barriers in our own heads. So one of the biggest challenge, I would say, would be coming from our homes, where how the upbringing is there in the families, and how the girls are taught like this is a sort of set of trade that women go into. This is what men go into. In South Asia as such, like it's looked as a trade. Even now, unfortunately, like it's where only till you're unmarried, you are in the tourism trade. once you get married, it's not like a great option to be in. Although we do have people breaking these kind of stereotypes. We have organizations, we have travel companies like G Adventures, where we do have women who are guides, who are CEOs, is what they call in there. And there are women who are married and who are leading trips. So, there is that little slight shift, but coming from what is the biggest challenge? Bigger challenges coming from our homes, so within our family structure. So at times there are options now, but like people might not know of, and there is a whole like lack of information, I would say, where there could be something like a Planetera learning hub, where there is online resources available, but the community or the women working in the community or an NGO or an organization or a think tank are not aware of it.
Closing the gender gap.
Ownership of property is one big concern. If a woman owns property, then she is capable, she has the right to buy a 5-star hotel. And so when property ownership becomes same, then that's where a gender gap can be closed. Although now with education, with female education, there are more women coming up also. And if you're talking about pay and etc., what is happening is tourism skills, capacity building and skill training in tourism. Also, men availed of the facilities more than women did. Although now in recent years, more and more women are taking training and courses in tourism, or they are even going out of the country to go to get higher education in tourism, so that they are now able to come back to the country and take up senior positions. But it is happening in a very small scale. Okay, it's education and qualification and awareness. What has happened is in countries like Nepal, women's job is, there's already an assignment, like women will be teachers, nurses, air hostesses, whereas big manager in a hotel would be a man. At the reception, telephone operator would be a girl. This is the kind of mindset that people have. Although now, with education, with more awareness of the charm of tourism, more women are getting into tourism because it's a glamorous job and there's so much exposure in tourism. Women are now looking for exposure in tourism, so there's more awareness.
Education as a tool to close the gender gap.
As an educationalist, for me right now, we're providing Bachelor's of Business Hospitality Management program. Now in this program, there's the focus on entrepreneurship, leadership and management. Much of my students, because they're already managing different activities and leading is a function of that. Girls that are here at the college are already leaders because they're already managing different events. Now that's one. Second, when they come for education, it's not just about focusing on their textbooks or learning theory. We also try to work on their mindsets. They have different stereotypes about what they can do, what they cannot do, their limiting beliefs about themselves, and they have a very fixed mindset. Now this is not just for the females, but this is also for the guys. They also have their own baggages. What we do here is we provide an open area for discussion. We include such courses such as emotional intelligence, where they can talk to each other about their thoughts, about who they should become. For the men, I actually think that because of the values we provide to them, we talk to them about compassion and empathy, so they are the ones that can actually go on to help the women because they need to share the load. We can talk about women empowerment and we can talk about leadership, but at the house, if the men are not helping out, there will never be that equality. So when we talk about education and just empowering women, I say we need to empower the men to understand how to share the women's load as well. So that's the second thing that we do. The third one is because they're getting an education, they're actually working towards getting a career, a job for themselves. When women can see that they have a career, the possibility of a very good career for themselves, this empowers them. Now, this is all about leadership. Education helps them become free because they can see that they're empowered. So, this is how I think the role of education for women is mostly to do with freedom.
What can organizations do to close this gender gap?
In context of Nepal, we do have a patriarchal system. There was this recent case where our immigration department also wanted women under 40 to take permission from their family, their husbands, and even the ward to travel abroad. So we're talking about this in context of Nepal. So yes, some deliberate action is required. Now, for organizations, what could be some kind of deliberate action? One, when students come into our colleges, they need to see that there is no discrimination in policies, in the languages that we use. Everything needs to be more gender neutral. We're not just talking about the men. We have to talk about, instead of saying something like manpower, we use the word manpower. What is manpower really, right? We're talking about human resource. But when we try and use words that are not gender neutral, then we actually in some way trying to discriminate against women. So the place needs to be more non-discriminatory and neutral. Second, there needs to be a place where you have male and female employees in that organization. It can't just be one gender. I think the male-female ratio needs to be well balanced. People need to see that and appreciate that in the workplace. Also, for women, I think we need to give more opportunities. And it's not just about giving opportunities, but it's also about giving support to get those opportunities. Because sometimes, we hear women are getting opportunities, but can they really take those opportunities? We need to now think about skilling them, maybe giving them the right trainings, giving them mentorship so that they can actually be eligible to take those opportunities. So opportunities, giving them training, mentorship, having an equal workplace male-female ratio, and just ensuring that the workplace is safe for them, is non-discriminatory. There are languages that are gender neutral. These are some of the things I think will definitely help women become more empowered.
Right. When we were saying women, a lot of it is like you're lacking in training, right? In to steer you in the correct direction. So that's where some organization like a Planet Earth, that's where we come into being, where we have an online resource hub, which I was talking about initially, where we have things right from let's say from developing tourism initiative to running a homestay, let's say, or to even communication skills, right? So where there's a whole lot of resource material available, and where we are happy to go out and give this kind of resource to our partners. And what we do is Planet Era Foundation works to provide training, capacity building, and support for women globally. We do have our policies in place where and as organizations, we need to be gender sensitized, staff needs to be trained, and that includes the men and women, where you are sensitive towards your ladies. They need to be more maternity benefits, so you don't deter women, and that's why a lot of girls drop out after marriage. It's like they don't, because you have added responsibilities. You could have a child at home to take care of, so it gets a little difficult at times for them to cope with those kind of scenarios. But where your workspace understands those kind of needs, and like it could be a simple thing like having a crush in your office. Someone's had a baby, she needs to take care, and the kid needs to be around her. You get the child to the office, there's a crush over there. And the whole sensitivity and gender training is extremely important. A conversation in the office cannot be about, oh, when are you getting married, or what color clothes are you wearing, why you dressed like this, you're so thin, or you're so fat, or how will you get married. And you can't have, so that's those are the kind of challenges like which needs to be address when you talk about gender, whether it's in tourism. If the workspace in your office you feel safe, only then you're going to be safe when you're outside, whether you're in a shop, in a handicraft shop, or whether you're going out as a guide. But within the organization, we need to empower our women, and we need to be really sensitive about how we're talking, how we're conducting ourselves. So like sometimes even if women are traveling with a group, but like what the problem could be as simple as not why women could be dropping out, not finding a washroom. You could be driving at length, you could be traveling from place A to place B, but if there's no safe, clean washroom, right? Why would the girl join that trade? So there is a lot like which has to come from the side of the organization, the tourism sector, plus also from our families, where we have to break these kind of stereotypes.
Promoting female leadership.
Leadership, when we think about it, it's all about helping others and helping to reach a common goal. So I'm using this word help because that's what I think a leader's role is basically. So for women to be able to help others, they need to be confident. And I think confident only comes if you're continuously growing, if you're continuously learning. So I'd say if people want to be in leadership position, they need to continuously grow, they need to continuously learn. Second, I think one, you learn from your own experiences, but you also learn from others. So a good leader is also one that actually has good communication skills and good networking skills. For my own experience, I felt, growing my network, having a community of different people, help and support each other, that is where I felt I became a good leader. You don't become a good leader just sitting in a vacuum. You have to go out there. You have to reach out to people. You have to become one with others as well. And a leadership style that I am most familiar with is authentic leadership. I think that's the one that I practice. It's just being yourself. I mean, everybody has a different personality, be it male or female, we're all different. And just being true to yourself, true to your nature, true to what you are, being open and transparent actually creates a very open space in your organization. For leaders, I think be authentic, be true, learn from yourself, learn from your mistakes. One thing that I've always learned is through my mistakes, and it has helped me become a better person. So I think those are just some of the advices that I can give you from my own experience.
Leadership means you have to be willing to take up the challenge and willing to face the rough nature of tourism. Tourism, the work involved in tourism is pretty rough, which men are able to take. It's not that women cannot, but they have to be, we need to counsel women. There needs to be a lot of awareness creation, because I think women, if they do this job, they do very well, because they work hard, they are very honest, they are very sincere, they deliver their service very well. So women have to be mentally prepared that this job also has a lot of charm. You are making a lot of exposure for yourself. You are seeing the world in Nepal itself. Within your own country, you are dealing with people from all over the world. You are learning all people from all over the world. So I think still we need to create awareness in the education for women. When they take up their higher studies, there is a lot of scope if they take tourism courses. Now there are a lot of tourism colleges in town. So language classes, guide trainings, and also if women do physical activities like trekking guides, climbing, mountaineering, there is a lot of scope. People love to take women as guides. So again, there we need to break the glass ceiling. So I would love to encourage young girls to come up and take jobs in the tourism business, but they have to come mentally prepared. You can start small, but you will grow. That's the thing. You cannot just start big. You have to start from a grassroots and gradually upgrade yourself, promote yourself, and you will do well.